I returned from the hospital to find 105 people celebrating a housewarming in my own home. "We thought you'd be gone longer," my fiancée said, lifting her glass. "We gave my daughter your room. Get out and don't come back," said her mom while her brother laughed. I checked my bank app. Balance, $0. My car? Sold yesterday. I said, "Didn't waste a minute, huh?" Then I opened my backpack and pulled out 43 envelopes. I came home from the hospital with a paper bag of discharge meds, a sore side, and a cheap plastic wristband still stuck to my arm. There were cars all along my street. At first, I honestly thought I had the wrong house. Music was blasting through my front windows. My front windows, white and gold balloons, were tied to my mailbox, and a glitter sign on my porch said, "Welcome home, girls." Girls. Plural. I stood there with my backpack hanging off one shoulder, trying to make sense of it. Then I heard somebody inside laugh and say, "Just move the boys' stuff to the garage." My chest went cold. I opened my front door and walked into a party. Not a small one, not a few neighbors dropping by. A full house. People in my kitchen, on my couch, standing in my hallway, with drinks in their hands like they belonged there. Catering trays on my counters. Rental chairs in my dining room. Somebody had moved my framed barber certificates off the wall and replaced them with photos of my fiancé's daughter in dance costumes. Later, I counted the chairs, plates, and names on the guest list by the punch bowl. There were 105 people in my house, celebrating a housewarming. In my own home. My fiancée, Marin, stood in the center of the living room with a wine glass in her hand like she was hosting a charity event. Her mother, Celeste, was beside her in a cream pantsuit, smiling that hard smile she used when she wanted to look respectable while being cruel. Marin saw me first. She didn't run over, didn't ask how I felt, didn't look surprised enough for it to matter. She lifted her glass a little and said, "We thought you'd be gone longer." A few people laughed. I looked past her toward the hallway. My son Owen's room door was open. The blue bedding was gone. His dinosaur lamp was gone. The handmade sign that said Owen in green paint was leaning against the baseboard like trash. Inside the room were pink storage boxes, tool gift bags, and a giant white canopy over the bed. Marin followed my eyes and said like it was nothing, "We gave Leela your room, not Owen's room. Your room, like my son, had never existed in it." I'm Sydney. I was 36 when this happened, and I worked as a barber. I owned a 4-chair shop in Tulsa. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I opened at 8, closed late on Fridays, and knew half my regulars by the way they knocked on the glass before I unlocked the shop. I bought that little brick house 4 years earlier with money I saved one haircut at a time. It had 2 bedrooms, a converted den, old hardwood floors, and a backyard just big enough for a grill and a cheap fire pit. Owen and I painted his room blue ourselves. He had been 8 then and very serious about where the desk should go, because the afternoon light hit one corner better for drawing. That room mattered, not because it was big, because it was his. Marin came into our lives 2 years after I bought the house. She was warm in the beginning, easy laugh, good with people. The kind of woman who touched your arm while talking and made you feel chosen. She had a daughter, Lila, younger than Owen by 2 years. I didn't mind that. I never expected children to blend overnight. What I missed was the pattern around her. Every conversation about our future somehow ended with my money or my space. Every family problem on her side somehow had my name attached to the solution. It started small, an overdue electric bill she was too embarrassed to tell me about. Dance tuition for Lila because her ex was behind again. A car insurance payment during a rough month. Then Celeste's refrigerator repair. Then Brent's truck problem. Then Brent's rent. Then groceries just until payday. Then another small emergency. Then another. By the time Marin and I were engaged, I was paying the mortgage, utilities, internet, most groceries, Marin's phone, random extras for Lila, and still sending weekly money to her family like I was some private relief fund nobody had to thank. $200 to Marin for house stuff. $85 to Celeste when she was short. Whatever Brent needed that week. Tow, phone bill, deposit, inspection, Court fee, gas. Always urgent, always temporary. Never ending. And while I kept helping, they kept making Owen smaller. Never enough to create one big dramatic scene. Just steady little cuts. Lila got the bigger cupcake because girls like pretty things. Lila got the front seat in family pictures because she was more photogenic. At Thanksgiving, the cousins got embroidered stockings, and Owen got a plain red one from a discount bin because his must have gotten lost. When we spent a weekend at Brent's lake rental that I paid for, Brent invited two of his friends without asking, and Owen ended up sleeping on couch cushions because kids don't care. Owen never complained. That was the part that hurt most. He would just nod and say, "It's okay, Dad." That child got too good at making himself easy. My surgery was supposed to be simple. Appendix, 1 or 2 nights at most. Marin packed my bag and told me not to worry. Owen stayed with my sister Dana while I was admitted. Dana never liked Marin. She said once, "Anybody who needs praise for basic decency usually comes with invoices." I laughed back then. I didn't laugh later. The surgery was on Tuesday morning. By Wednesday evening, the doctor said I could go home. Marin didn't answer my first 2 calls. On the third, she texted, "Busy here. Can you Uber?" Busy. My neighbor Cam drove me instead. When we turned onto my street and saw the balloons in the line of cars, he whistled low and said, "That doesn't look right." No, it didn't. Back inside my house, Celeste came toward me with that bright, fixed smile. "You're back early," she said. Brent was behind her, with a beer in one hand and my garage remote in the other. Then Celeste looked me dead in the face and said, "We gave my granddaughter the big room. Get out and don't come back." Brent laughed. I was still in pain. My side was pulling under the fresh bandage. My mouth felt dry. I think that's the only reason I didn't explode. Instead, I pulled out my phone. I checked my bank app. Balance, 0. Checking, 0. Savings, 0. Emergency account, 0. I stared at the screen, thinking maybe the app hadn't loaded right. Then I saw the transfers. Multiple withdrawals, transfers I didn't authorize, and one notification that made everything inside me go silent. Vehicle sale confirmation. My truck had been sold the day before. Sold. The truck I'd paid off 2 years earlier. The truck with Owen's baseball glove under the back seat and a cracked coffee lid in the console. The truck I used for supply, runs to the shop and Saturday hardware store trips. I looked up from the phone and let out one short laugh. "Didn't waste a minute, huh?" I said. That changed the room. Not silence exactly, but attention. Marin's expression shifted for the first time. Celeste folded her arms. "We did what we had to do. Marin has to think about stability for her daughter. Her daughter. Always her daughter. Never my son. Never us." I looked down the hall again at the room they'd stripped in less than 48 hours and asked, "Where are Owen's things?" "In bins," Marin said. "Where?" "In the garage. Some on the patio." We had to move fast. Move fast. Like they were clearing out a tenant, I set my backpack down on the hall table and opened it. Then I pulled out the envelopes. 43 of them. Thick white envelopes. All labeled. Marin frowned. "What is that?" "The reason I'm still standing here calm," I said. 3 weeks earlier, before the surgery, I had gone to see a lawyer named Harriet Cole. Not because I planned to end my engagement. Because I was tired. Tired enough to realize too many people had access to too much of my life. Too many passwords. Too many accounts. Too much temporary help that had somehow become permanent entitlement. Harriet listened to everything and then said one sentence that stuck in me like a nail. "You are not being generous. You are being harvested." She helped me prepare files in case I ever needed to shut everything down fast. Those envelopes held exactly that. Fraud forms, account revocations, signed cancellation letters, property notices, copies of transfer histories, a dispute packet for my truck, written instructions to freeze the accounts, confirmation sheets for ending every automatic payment linked to Marin, Celeste, and Brent. I held up one envelope. This one is the bank fraud packet. Another. This one disputes the truck sale. Another. This one revokes every shared access permission I ever gave anyone in your family. I set one more on the entry table. And this one states that nobody here lives in this house except me and my son. Brent stopped smiling. Celeste said, "Don't be dramatic." I almost laughed at that. Dramatic, there were 105 people drinking in my house under a fake housewarming sign while my bank account sat at zero, and my child's room was turned into a princess display. I spread a few papers out on the table. Transfer records, payment logs, dates, amounts, $1,125 for Brent's rent, $640 for Celeste's therapy copay, $315 for Lila's dance tuition, $1,900 wedding venue deposit, $85 every Thursday to Celeste, $200 weekly to Marin. Random emergencies all over the page. Marin stared at the highlighted totals. "You kept track of that?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Somebody had to." That was the moment the last illusion dropped. This wasn't one ugly night. It wasn't one party. It wasn't even one theft. It was a long pattern finally showing its full shape. They took money because I let them. They took space because I let them. And now, while I was in a hospital bed, they had taken Owen's room because they believed I'd still let them. That was the last straw. Not the party, not even the truck. My son's room. Because that told me exactly how little they thought of him and how safe they felt doing it. Marin tried a softer voice then, the one she used around outsiders. "Sid, you just got out of surgery. You're tired. You're upset." I pulled out my phone and called Harriet on speaker. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Ward, I'm home," I said. "The house is occupied." A pause. "Are you safe?" "As safe as I can be with 100 strangers in my living room." Several guests started gathering their bags right then. Nothing clears a room like a lawyer hearing the word occupied. Harriet said, calm and crisp, "Do not argue. Do not negotiate. If unauthorized persons refuse to leave, contact local non-emergency dispatch. I have already submitted the account freeze documents and dispute notices." Marin took one fast step toward me. "You called a lawyer before this?" "Yes, because deep down, some part of me had known." I ended the call and looked at her. "You need to take your family and leave my house." She blinked, like she truly thought she still had options. "Sydney, no." One word, flat, no yelling, no speech, just no. "You, your mother, your brother, your guests. Take everything you brought into this house. Take it now," Celeste said. "And where exactly are we supposed to go?" "Somewhere you're paying for," I said. That landed. Marin tried another angle. "So you're throwing my daughter out?" "I'm removing adults who stole from me and displaced my son." That was the sentence that ended the argument. Because it was clean and true. Lila wasn't the villain. She was a child being raised to think other people's things could become hers if her mother wanted them badly enough. I didn't hate her, but I was not going to let her stand in Owen's room holding his pillow while everyone acted like that was normal. My sister Dana arrived 15 minutes later because Cam had called her. She came in, took one look at the balloons, the papers on the hall table, and the pink mess in Owen's room, and said, "Oh, absolutely not." Then she started moving things. Not with speeches, not with drama. Just armful after armful of gift bags, pink boxes, ribbons, and decorations, carried straight to the porch. A woman I didn't know tried to stop her. Dana said, "You can help or you can move." The woman moved. Owen came in behind Dana holding his duffel and sketchbook. He stopped in the hallway, saw the room, saw me, then looked down. That part stays with me, not because he cried. He didn't. Because he looked like he was trying to keep his hurt small so I wouldn't have to handle it while I was recovering. "Did they move my stuff?" he asked quietly. I swallowed hard. Yes. He pressed his sketchbook tighter against his chest and said, Okay. No kid should ever say that like it makes sense." I crouched as far as my side would let me and put a hand on the back of his neck. "This is still your home," I told him. He nodded once. That was enough for me. I sat at the kitchen island with an ice pack tucked under my shirt and made the cleanest financial move of my life. I called the bank and froze every account. I removed every authorized user. I disputed every transfer made during my hospitalization. I terminated the weekly payments. I shut down the shared wedding savings account. I froze my credit. I canceled Marin's phone line from my family plan. I canceled the bedroom furniture order she'd placed for after the wedding. I disputed the truck sale. I changed the house alarm code, garage code, Wi-Fi password, streaming passwords, pharmacy pickup authorization, grocery delivery access, and emergency contact forms. At Owen's school, one decision, one line: no more shared access to anything built on my labor. That was my boundary. Not revenge, not chaos. Structure. Celeste tried every angle while I did it. This is cruel. This is stress talking. You're punishing Lila. You'll never find a woman who accepts your baggage. My baggage, mortgage, barbershop, quiet son with a sketchbook. Meanwhile, her son had sold my truck. Brent finally muttered, "It's just money, man." I looked at him while canceling the storage unit payment I'd been covering for 6 months. Then earned some. He shut up after that. Marin didn't cry until she heard me cancel the wedding venue. That was the first thing that seemed real to her. "What do you mean, canceled?" I didn't even look up. "I mean, I'm not financing a ceremony for someone who moved my son out of his bedroom while I was in the hospital." She stared at me like I was the one destroying something sacred. "You're ending everything over one room?" That told me more than any confession could have. "It's not one room," I said. "It's every time I paid for a place in your life that you never intended to give us." By 10 that night, the house was empty except for me, Owen, Dana, and Cam. The balloons were gone, the sign was gone, Cam changed the locks. Dana remade Owen's bed with the blue sheets. Owen put his lamp back on the desk and lined up his pencils again like he was repairing something with his hands, because his heart couldn't do it yet. I sat in the hallway and watched him. My incision hurt, my truck was gone, my accounts were frozen, my fiancée was gone, and underneath all of that, I felt relief. Actual relief. Not the kind you feel after sending money so people stop bothering you for 3 days. The kind that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself. The missed calls started before midnight. Marin first, then Celeste, then Brent. Texts stacked up one after another. "You embarrassed me." "Mom says, you planned this. How could you do this to Lila? You're unstable. A real man doesn't throw women out at night. At least unlock my storage unit." I blocked all 3. The next morning, Dana came over with bagels, and Owen sat at the kitchen table drawing. He didn't talk much, just drew. When I passed behind him, I saw he had sketched his room exactly the way it had been before they touched it. Blue wall, desk by the window, lamp, bed. Then, in the corner, he had drawn a lock on the door. I had to look away for a second. The fallout lasted weeks. The bank wanted statements and timelines. Harriet handled most of it. The truck dispute moved faster once the dealership saw the hospital admission records. The wedding venue refunded part of the deposit because the contract was in my name. Celeste's utility bill went unpaid because I was no longer covering it. Brent lost access to his storage unit when my card stopped clearing. Marin's phone shut off on a Tuesday afternoon, and she left me a voicemail from an unknown number saying I was destroying lives over pride. Pride, that word told me everything. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries always rename your self-respect when it finally arrives. Then came the house visits. Celeste showed up first with a pastor from her church. I didn't let them in. She said family says hurtful things under stress. I said, "You moved my son out while I was hospitalized." She said that wasn't the point. I said, "That is the only point." The pastor started talking about grace. I said, "Grace isn't a debit card." He left first. A few days later, Brent came by alone and asked if I could at least restart the storage payment because his tools were in there. I told him no. He said there were family photos in the unit too. I said he should have thought about family before helping stage a housewarming in my house. He called me cold. I said, "I'm not your backup bank." That line stayed. I repeated it to everybody after that. To the aunt who texted that Marin was a single mother under pressure. To the cousin who said weddings make women emotional. To the church lady who called my barbershop to say I should be the bigger person. To Marin herself when she cornered me outside the shop one evening and cried in the parking lot. I made mistakes, she said. True. We can fix this. No. You're really throwing away a family? I looked at her standing under my shop sign and answered as plainly as I could. I won't fund a family my son isn't part of. That was it. Not a speech. Not a threat. Just the truth. She stopped crying then, because she heard the finality in it. Not anger. Structure. My regulars at the shop found out the basic version. Engagement ended. Money mess. House issue. Recovery. Men are strange about support, but it came anyway. One tipped me $100 on a $25 cut and said his wife made him do it. Another left a hardware store gift card on my station and pretended it was extra change. Mr. Keene, 73 and loyal to the same flat top for 15 years, sat in my chair and said, "The most expensive people in the world are the ones who call your boundaries selfish." Then he nodded at me through the mirror, like that was all that needed saying. He was right. The hardest part was Owen. He was still quiet, but some of his quiet changed shape. He stopped automatically giving up better things. He stopped stepping back first. One night he asked if we could put a lock on his door. Not because he was scared, he said, just because I want it. So we did. A small brass lock, nothing dramatic. He kept the key in his desk drawer. A month later, after the bank restored most of the money and the truck issue was finally sorting itself out, I took him to the art store. I told him to get what he wanted. Not crazy, not the whole place, but enough. Good sketchbooks, better markers, mechanical pencils, a new desk lamp. At checkout, he kept looking at me like he expected me to say, some of it had to go back. I just shook my head. It's okay, I said. Funny how children learn scarcity in their shoulders. Summer came, and with it, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. No emergency requests. No guilt texts. No random transfers draining my account. No one treating my home like a waiting room for what they could take next. Just ordinary life. Work. Laundry. Little League. Hair splinters in my socks after long Saturdays at the shop. Frozen pizza on tired nights. Quiet. The real closure came in July. Dana said we should have our own housewarming. Not because I needed one. Because you got your house back, she said. So we did. Not 105 people. 9. Dana and her family. Cam from across the street. 2 of Owen's friends and their moms. Mr. Keene, who brought potato salad and a folding chair. I cleaned the grill. Dana made pasta salad. Cam hung plain warm string lights over the patio. Owen made name cards because he liked labels. Simple evening. Burgers, chips, store-bought cookies. Kids running through the yard. No one posing. No one claiming rooms. No one making speeches about family while calculating what they could bill to me later. At one end of the patio table, Owen set out 3 empty envelopes. I asked what they were for. He shrugged. Just to remember, he said. I knew what he meant. Remember what stays closed. Remember what paper can do when you finally use it right. Remember that some doors should never be reopened. That night, after everyone left and the dishes were drying, I walked through the house, turning off lights. Kitchen. Living room, hallway, then Owen's room. He was asleep with one arm over the blanket, his sketchbook open beside him. I looked down. He had drawn the house again. Front porch, maple tree, backyard lights, 2 figures in the window. One taller, one smaller. Under it, in careful block letters, he had written, "Ours." I stood there longer than I meant to. That was the moment it all settled. This was never really about revenge. It wasn't even mostly about the money. It was about what happens when you spend too long paying to be tolerated. It was about how some people will gladly eat at your table while teaching your child he doesn't belong there. It was about how help stops being help when it becomes tribute. And it was about one calm boundary, doing what years of explaining never could. I used to think kindness meant endurance. It didn't. Sometimes kindness looked like canceled access, changed locks, a frozen account, a child's room restored exactly the way he left it, a quieter table, fewer people, more safety. And if this whole mess taught me anything, it was this. Love that depends on your silence is not love. Family that needs your wallet more than your child is not family. And the moment you stop funding your own disrespect, a lot of people will call you cruel. Let them. They were comfortable, not entitled. There's a difference.